LeBron James just destroyed at a post-game podium that exposed months of locker room tension the Lakers have been desperately trying to hide. And the reason behind it all traces back to his own son, Bronny James. The play that broke the Lakers. On February 24, 2026, the Los Angeles Lakers lost to the Orlando Magic 110-9 in a game that should have ended with a Luka Doncic game winner. Instead, it ended with LeBron James standing at a podium, choosing his words very carefully, and the entire basketball world asking one single question: what is going on inside that Lakers locker room? Here's what happened. With seconds left on the clock, the Lakers called timeout, trailing by one. J.J. Redd drew up a play designed to get Luka Doncic an open look for the game-winning shot. The play worked perfectly, exactly as it was drawn up on the clipboard. Doncic came off the screen clean, found himself completely wide open from three-point range with enough time on the clock to get a quality shot off without any pressure whatsoever. And then, in a moment that defied absolutely everything we know about one of the most confident shooters on the entire planet, he hesitated. He picked up his dribble, fumbled away the golden opportunity, and kicked the ball to LeBron James, who was completely off balance and had absolutely no chance of converting the shot into a game winner. The Magic won. The Lakers dropped to a dismal 4-6 record on their homestand. Paolo Banchero finished the night with 36 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists, while Doncic went just 8 of 24 from the field and 2 of 10 from three-point range. And the post-game press conference is where this story truly begins to unravel in spectacular fashion. What did you see on the last possession there, coming out of a timeout? I knew I was open, but I just thought I was a little bit far. Now, think about that statement for a second and let it truly sink in. Luka Doncic, the same man who has launched threes from the logo with a grin plastered across his face on countless occasions throughout his career, is telling the media he thought he was too far away from a normal three-point look. Wide open, no defender within arm's reach of him. Tried to take one dribble closer. Probably shouldn't picked up the ball. That admission alone tells you Doncic knows he messed up in a way that simply cannot be explained away by basketball logic. But the real fireworks came when reporters turned the microphones toward LeBron James, and the four-time champion delivered what many people interpreted as a calculated, deliberate, and unmistakable shot at his own teammate on national television. You have to ask Luka what he saw on that, but I thought he had a good look, and it looked like he kind of just lost his balance. You have to ask Luka. 5 words that sent absolute shockwaves through the entire NBA media landscape. LeBron did not say, "We didn't execute as a team." He did not say, "It happens, we move on to the next one." He pointed the finger directly at Doncic and told the entire world to go get his explanation from him personally, because LeBron was not going to cover for what he saw. Didn't have a rhythm with the ball, whatever the case may be, and it kind of allowed him to get back in front of him. And LeBron was not finished making his point crystal clear for everyone listening. He made absolute sure every single person in that room understood that the pass he received from Doncic was not one he could do anything remotely productive with. I was kind of off balance when he gave it to me. Then he dropped the final line, delivered almost like cold punctuation on a verdict he had already rendered in his mind before the first question was even asked at the podium. I thought he had a great look, but that's my POV. Multiple outlets and fans immediately accused LeBron of throwing Luka under the bus and publicly disrespecting his co-star in the most passive-aggressive way possible. The headlines wrote themselves overnight and dominated every basketball talk show the next morning. And while Doncic took full ownership in his own presser, telling reporters that the blame was entirely on him and nobody else, the damage was already done and could not be undone. Because this moment did not exist in a vacuum. It existed inside a Lakers locker room that had been quietly fracturing for months over something far more personal than a single missed shot. The analysts broke down the play in forensic detail the very next day, and the consensus among all of them was completely unanimous in what they concluded. It was almost like a football play the way everyone moved, and you simply cannot ask for a better look than the one Doncic got. The play was designed perfectly. Every piece moved exactly where it was supposed to move. Doncic had the exact shot that every single player in the league dreams about getting, with the game on the line, wide open, with nobody within arm's reach. And he gave it away to a teammate who was not remotely in position to do anything productive with it. Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking here, but obviously this was just a mental lapse for Luka. He's got to take that shot. A mental lapse. That is the most generous possible interpretation of what happened, and it came from a player who shot 8 of 24 from the field and a brutal 2 of 10 from three-point range that same night. A player who, according to respected NBA analyst Zach Lowe, had become unwatchable at times because of constant complaining to referees that was actively costing his team critical defensive possessions on the other end of the floor every single game. A player whose own Lakers play-by-play broadcasters had publicly begged him to stop whining because he was missing crucial defensive rotations that were leading directly to easy baskets for opponents. Buckle up your seatbelt because he's getting it. It is becoming unwatchable to watch Luka at times. That's according to Zach Lowe, because it's the constant complaining. The complaining had become such a persistent issue that it was now defining the way people talked about Doncic more than his extraordinary talent did. One analyst on the show captured the frustration perfectly when describing how the ref baiting and subsequent arguing had infected every aspect of Doncic's game and the team's ability to compete. The Luka stuff, it's not good. And it's exhausting just from a standpoint of watching. It's got to be exhausting from an effort getting back on defense. And this is the toxic environment LeBron James walked into that press conference carrying on his shoulders. A devastating loss that should have been a win. A teammate who passed up the game winner when the play was drawn up specifically for him. A pattern of behavior that was actively hurting the team's ability to compete every night. And a season that was beginning to spiral in a direction that absolutely nobody expected when Doncic first arrived in Los Angeles to much fanfare and celebration. Because when the Lakers acquired Luka Doncic on February 1st, 2025 in a 3-team blockbuster with Dallas and Utah that sent Anthony Davis, Max Christie, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and multiple draft picks out of Los Angeles, the expectation was as simple as it gets in the NBA. Pair the greatest player of his generation with the most talented young playmaker in the world and go win a championship together. And for a while, it worked beautifully. The Lakers posted the second-best record in the Western Conference after the trade deadline. Doncic signed it.
LeBron called him a great guy and told reporters he loved everything about the way Doncic approached the game of basketball. But beneath the polished surface and the carefully crafted media quotes, there was a problem brewing that no amount of public praise could fix. And that problem had a name that everybody in the building knew, but nobody wanted to say out loud. Bronny James. The Bronny factor and the locker room split. To understand why LeBron James responded to that Orlando loss the way he did, you have to understand what had been building inside the Lakers organization for months before that press conference ever happened. And all of it centers on the most scrutinized second-round pick in the entire history of the NBA draft. Bronny James was selected 55th overall by the Los Angeles Lakers in the 2024 NBA Draft after one season at USC. That season at USC very nearly never happened at all, because on July 24, 2023, Bronny collapsed during a team workout at USC's Galen Center and suffered cardiac arrest. Medical staff on site responded immediately, performing CPR and using a defibrillator on the 18-year-old before rushing him to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where he was admitted to the ICU in critical but stable condition. The cause was later determined to be a congenital heart defect that required surgery to correct. LeBron and Savannah James described the entire ordeal as a nightmarish incident in their Netflix documentary Starting Five, breaking down in tears on camera while recounting how close they came to losing their eldest son forever. Bronny was cleared to play in late November 2023, made his USC debut in December, declared for the draft the following spring, and made history as part of the first father-son duo to play together in the NBA. LeBron has been fiercely, almost obsessively protective of his son ever since that terrifying day at the Galen Center. That context is absolutely essential for understanding everything that follows in this story. In the 2025-2026 season, Bronny has averaged around 4 points and 2 assists in limited minutes, facing constant scrutiny and relentless nepotism accusations from fans, media, and even some people within the organization itself. And the arrival of Luka Doncic did not ease that pressure. It turned it into a full-blown organizational crisis that threatened to tear the team apart from the inside. The first major flashpoint came on November 15, 2025, during a win against the Milwaukee Bucks. Doncic scored 41 points in that game and essentially carried the entire team on his back to a victory. Bronny played 10 minutes in that same game, scored 0 points, and posted a horrific -4.2 net rating that made it statistically clear the Lakers were significantly worse when he was on the court. Coach J.J. Redick benched Bronny and yelled at him from the sideline in a moment cameras captured for the world to see, while Doncic was visibly frustrated on the court during Bronny's minutes, urging the young guard to be more aggressive with the basketball. After the game, Doncic walked to the podium and said something that split the entire locker room clean in half. "Man, I came here to win rings, not babysit anyone." That single sentence created two warring factions inside the Lakers organization that have persisted to this day. Insiders described it as Team Luka and Team LeBron forming within the roster, with players and staff members quietly picking sides based on their relationships and loyalties. LeBron confronted Redick behind closed doors after the game, reportedly absolutely furious over an alleged hidden clause in Redick's contract that mandated Bronny's development alongside Doncic, a clause that Doncic had absolutely no knowledge of whatsoever when he agreed to sign his massive extension with the franchise.
LeBron's own media comments during this period added complex and troubling layers to the growing friction between the two stars. In an ESPN interview, he said, "If we're depending on a 41-year-old to be our best defender, we're in trouble." On the surface, that looks like harmless, self-deprecating humor from an aging legend having fun with reporters. But analysts quickly pointed out that it was a thinly veiled shot at Doncic's defense, which hovered around a woeful 115 defensive rating for the entire season. For reference, Bronny's defensive rating was actually worse at 120.5. But LeBron was very clearly not directing that particular comment at his own son. The implication was obvious to anyone paying attention. And then, in early February 2026, the situation took a bizarre and unprecedented turn into the world of artificial intelligence and digital fabrication. An AI-generated video depicting LeBron punching a series of NBA stars, including Doncic, went massively viral across every single social media platform simultaneously. The video, created using Interlink AI, a Discord-based deepfake tool, showed LeBron delivering brutal knockout blows to Doncic, Stephen Curry, Michael Jordan, Kevin Durant, and several others in disturbingly realistic fashion that fooled millions of viewers. It spread across social media with millions upon millions of views within just a few days, and people who were already closely following the Lakers drama genuinely believed for a terrifying moment that LeBron had physically confronted Doncic over the Bronny situation. The video was completely and utterly fake, fabricated entirely by artificial intelligence. Experts confirmed it was AI synthesized, riddled with telltale inconsistencies, including mismatched player uniforms from different eras, unnatural body movements that defied human physics, and the completely absurd inclusion of retired players like Michael Jordan in modern NBA settings. LeBron's legal team from the powerhouse firm Grubman, Schrachter, Mayelis & Sachs sent a cease and desist letter to FlickUp, Interlink AI's parent company, demanding the immediate removal of all realistic AI models of his likeness from the platform. The founder, Jason Stacks, complied within just 30 minutes of receiving the letter and updated the platform's policies regarding the use of public figures going forward.
But the fact that millions of people found the video believable in the first place, the fact that it spread as rapidly as it did and was taken seriously by so many, tells you absolutely everything you need to know about the current state of the Los Angeles Lakers. The tensions between LeBron and Doncic are real enough and public enough that a completely fabricated knockout video did not even seem remotely outlandish to a massive portion of the fan base. That is precisely how fractured the atmosphere inside this organization has become, and the Encore product reflects every single bit of that dysfunction, night after night. Windhorst's assessment on First Take was blunt and unflinching about where this entire experiment is heading. He went even further, explaining that the front office was already actively preparing for a post-LeBron future, regardless of how this current season ultimately ends. Windhorst made it clear that next year, the Lakers are probably only going to have Luka and Austin Reeves as their core pieces, and that Lon Rosen, the brand new head of basketball business operations, is now a major power player in the building. The writing is on the wall in letters too large and too bold for anyone to ignore at this point. Rob Pelinka will remain as general.
Stephen A. Smith laid out exactly why that gauntlet is essentially a death sentence for a team constructed the way this one is. San Antonio has Victor Wembanyama as a defensive eraser who changes every shot at the rim. Oklahoma City has an entire squad from top to bottom that plays elite, suffocating defense on every single possession. Denver has both depth and the incomparable Nikola Jokic. The Lakers, ranked a pitiful 23rd or 24th in defensive efficiency, simply cannot get enough stops against any of those teams to survive a grueling 7-game playoff series where defensive intensity gets ratcheted up to an entirely different level. The bottom line is the Lakers do not really stand a chance against any of those top seeds, and that is why everyone looking at this team right now is saying they are in dire straits, whether they end up as a 4th seed, a 5th seed, or worse. And the Luka complaining issue compounds absolutely everything else that is already going wrong. His persistent tendency to argue with officials instead of sprinting back on defense is not just annoying for fans watching at home on their televisions. It is costing the Lakers real, measurable, tangible points in real, meaningful games that determine their playoff positioning. Yeah, and also it affects winning, right? Like you hate to see in a good game a guy stops and complains to a referee and then give up a layup on a 5-on-4 because of that. When you lose by a single solitary point like they did against Orlando on that fateful February night, every single one of those missed defensive rotations matters enormously. Every possession where Doncic is standing at half court, gesturing angrily at an official while the opposing team runs a 4-on-5 fast break is a possession the Lakers simply cannot afford to waste in a season where every game feels like a must-win. You lose by 1 point, 2 points in a game because you give up possessions after possession after possession, worrying about referees. And the analyst ultimately said what every single person watching the Lakers this season has been thinking, but has been afraid to say out loud because of the implications it carries for a player of Doncic's incredible stature in the sport. And that's going to be something that we continue to talk about with Luka, and he's too much of a great player for that to be his calling card. So here is exactly where the Los Angeles Lakers stand heading into the final, most consequential stretch of their season. LeBron James is 41 years old, protecting his son at every single turn with the ferocity and determination of a man who watched that same son nearly die from cardiac arrest on a gymnasium floor 2.5 years ago. And he is subtly but unmistakably making it clear through press conferences and carefully chosen media appearances that he does not fully trust his co-star to carry the load when it matters most. Luka Doncic is 26 years old, talented beyond measure, capable of things on a basketball court that only a small handful of humans who have ever lived have been able to do, but he is weighed down by his own self-destructive habits on the court and a locker room that has split right down the middle over a second-round pick who happens to share a last name with the greatest player in franchise history. Bronny James is caught squarely in the middle of all of it, a young man who nearly lost his life and is now the unwitting focal point of the most dysfunctional team dynamic in the entire NBA. And the front office is already looking past all three of them toward a summer where everything gets torn down, restructured, and rebuilt around whoever is left standing when the dust from this disaster finally settles. LeBron James never threw a punch at Luka Doncic, but what he did throw in that post-game press conference after the Orlando loss, standing at that podium under those bright lights with the cameras recording every word, was something far more damaging than any fist could ever be. He threw doubt, he threw blame, he threw a very public signal to the entire basketball world that the partnership between him and Doncic was not the unbreakable bond the organization sold to the fan base when they made the trade. And in a locker room this fragile, with egos this large and stakes this impossibly high, doubt might just be the knockout blow that this Lakers season never finds a way to recover from. Well, that's it for this video, but don't go anywhere because we've got plenty more heat for you. Just tap any of the cards on your screen right now and keep it locked.